Good morning. I am transgender. Surprise! Yes, I know it's not a surprise. When I say I am transgender, I am saying that I have a male twin in this sense. Even though while I was born, I was the only baby delivered, I have a male twin who came into existence moments later when the doctor said, "It's a boy," put male on my birth certificate, and apparently congratulated my parents on their new son. From that point on, my male twin, who doesn't really exist, was seen by everyone, including me. And I, who really did exist, or do exist, wasn't seen by anyone, including me. Now, this was not all bad. In West Texas in the early 1950s, which is when I was born, being called a girl was not a good thing, even if you were recognized generally as a girl. I can remember hearing growing up, and certainly probably saying to myself, "Oh, you're just a girl," or "You're such a girl," or "Don't be a girl," or other things that were equally belittling to girls and women. Girls had a place, women had a place they had to be. Men didn't. I remember thinking, I'm really lucky to be born a boy. Except that I wasn't. Born a boy, that is. There was a downside as well. When I was 7, I went to my mother and said, "I want to dress more like my sister." My mother said, "Sure," and put my male twin in one of my sister's starchiest dresses and sent it out to play in the hot Texas sun. It was miserable, and I knew that I was not going to be able to dress that way. When I was 7, I came up with my first exit plan. Because even at that age, I knew I might need a plan to exit this life if the pain or ridicule got too bad. I didn't fit with the girls because all they saw was the male twin, and they didn't want it around. And I didn't fit with the boys because, well, I'm not one. I thought, well, this is the way everybody lives. All I could see was the male twin. I did everything I could to fit in and learn how to be boyish. I learned how to view my behavior through the eyes of the male twin and to not do anything that I really wanted to do that might bring ridicule or abuse to it. So what's the result of living through this male shell? Well, there were feelings of pain, self-hate, worthlessness, being ugly, um, shame, fear, and anxiety, which seemed to have no real cause, and so are suppressed as being ridiculous or attention-seeking. In turn, this reinforces an internal dialogue of self-loathing, self-hate, and fear that keeps behavior within a safe box, and an underlying anger that's always sort of bubbling under the surface, ready to erupt in cases of ridicule or threat of violence or fear. The world is primarily a hostile place. The words of the words of love from others are devalued because if only they knew. Words of encouragement from others is devalued because they're to the male shell who doesn't really exist. And there's an underlying tension in all relationships. Regular therapy can, and for me did help for a while. It blunted the effects, but the interior dialogue always went back to this ridicule, the self-ridicule, the self-hate, this shaming of myself to keep myself from being myself. So what does healing look like then? Allies and safe groups and support groups provide a place where we can learn what it's like to be ourselves. It keeps the box from getting too narrow. It allows us to experience some joy in just being ourselves. It helps answer those interior voices of self-hate and self-loathing. But they're not enough, at least not in my experience. True healing comes in finally dealing with the suppressed feelings that accumulate over the years. My therapist recently asked me to write a letter to my earlier selves, ages 8, 13, and 20. I'd like to read that letter to you. Because in it I feel like I walk along the shore of this lake of accumulated pain and sadness. And it starts the process of healing that lake by bringing recognition, acceptance, and some peace to my former selves. Dear Anita, to my 8-year-old self, you don't have to wonder about what kind of feelings girls have because you are a girl. Those are your feelings and will always remain so. Being a girl is not bad despite what they're telling you at this time. When they limited girls, they were wrong. When you were afraid of being called a girl, you had good reason. It was not a time or place to affirm who you were. I know and feel your pain and sadness, the frustration of not being seen, the despair of not having a life worth living, the desire to be a boy because being a boy was better. I carry all those feelings with me now. You are a lovable person. You are a lovable child. You escaped the limitations that society put on girls, but you got frustrated by the limitations society put on boys. You never got a chance to be just you. But you survived. Now I get to be me. Us. I thank you for your resilience and your willingness to find a way forward. I have that determination now as well. It's taken a long time, but it's gotten better for me. And for you as well, I think. For us as one person at different points in life. My wife gave me a teddy bear for you, and through it I feel connected to you. To my 13-year-old self, I have a circle of women friends that accept me as me without the male twin. And I want you to know that up front because I know that belonging to a group of girls was really important to you. My friends and I spend time crocheting now. And I want you to know that too because I know learning such a skill was really important to you. I know you're distressed as the body becomes more male. In some ways it's easier to hide, but it makes finding opportunities to be with girls more difficult. You got less relief from the limitations that were put on girls and suffered more from the limitations that were put on boys. You never understood what being a male is because you're not a male. I still feel that confusion, although now it has less power because we get to be ourselves. The pain and emptiness of frustration of not being seen is still mine, but we get to deal with it together now. It's our pain, my pain. It's difficult to accept that there was nothing you could do, that you were helpless in the situation you found yourself. You chose the way of water, though, to flow through the cracks in perception, to make yourself known in subtle ways, to leave traces of yourself even after you'd passed through. For that I am grateful. Your persistence allows us to be now. I know the internal surveillance and vigilance of your behavior and what you said. That lasted late into life, along with a growing feeling of being fake and the fear of being found out. It takes a long time, much longer than you probably even imagine at your age. but we are seen by others now. And the feeling of needing to constantly replay what was said or done has gone away for the most part, as has the feeling of being fake. The male twin's not gone, not completely. It probably never will go away completely. But it does not have the power it once did. Those that know us well deal directly with me, us, now. I wish you could have known that, but it was not possible at that time. Your struggles with fitting in had less to do with you and much more to do with a society that didn't have any place for you to be. You are not a failure. You are a success. But it's a success that takes much longer to accomplish than most people allow. You do fit in. You are lovable. You live on within me and get to experience the joy of fashion and the exploration of how to express yourself, ourself, in clothes. Even now, though, our body remembers the feelings from the anxiety that you suffered, the nausea in the morning, even the vomiting at times. It remembers the tenseness in the shoulders and back from the underlying feelings of anxiety and anger. It remembers the physicality of the fear that haunted any new situation where what was a male would do was not clear and you could find yourself open to ridicule. It remembers the physical desire to be held and touched even while society told you it was wrong. I'm working on letting those physical memories go. They drag the emotional trauma that you went through into our current life. You didn't need that trauma then. We don't need it now. It will not be missed. You have a talent for crocheting. You have a talent for cooking. You have a talent for caring. You have a talent for fashion. Sorry, you still have no real artistic or musical talent. Some things just don't change. To my 20-year-old self, I remember your dysphoria, looking into the mirror and wondering who was looking back at you. I missed the insight that was there. I remember the ridicule that we heaped on those males who are probably much like us. Very effeminate, written off as gay. And still, we got to be friends with at least one of them. And really cared a lot about him, her, them. You continued finding ways to make yourself known through the male twin. You were able to dress more ambiguously. You were able to take some pride in making people guess, at least from behind, whether you're male or female. You're able to reduce the power of the male persona, at least for a while. But there's a major illness for you on the horizon that will upend your life and really muddy the waters. But even so, I don't think the ability to get to the truth of who you are was really open to you. Even if it was, I'm not sure there's anything you could do about it. In Texas at that time, dressing as a woman, and if you were seen or known as a male, could get you arrested and put in jail. And if you were caught doing it in private, you could be labeled mentally ill or a pervert. This sense of external ridicule and condemnation was still intense, even in Houston, which was more progressive than other places in Texas at the time. But you did leave traces of yourself and your feelings. Your sexual feelings are confused. You want sex with women, but not in the way that your body affords. That is yet to change, but it can after surgery. You carried the pain of the younger selves while adding more of your own. You buried that pain behind fantasies of self-destruction, mostly passive, or self-isolation. You managed to avoid the pitfalls of substance abuse, which was so rampant at the time. You did try it, but you wanted it to help integrate you, and it can never do that. You understood that something was wrong, and even went into social sciences to see if you could figure out what was missing, what wasn't matching up. You were able to tap into the feelings of wanting to be part of something, to learn how to be a healer, an enabler, a teacher. You will find a love of working with children, especially. You will struggle with working female jobs, which were less valued than male jobs, although the female jobs were more important. You continue to find ways to make yourself known, to express who you really are through the male twin, but you also learn to wrap yourself in a cloak of loneliness, to push people away through the use of sarcasm, always ready to walk away at the first time that ridicule might raise its ugly head. I feel your fear and anxiety. I feel that pain that accompanies this loneliness. But I'm no longer lonely. I have a wife, a child, a church family, a circle of friends, male and female, who love me and make spending time with them fun. You're confused now, looking for something different without knowing what it is, or even to accept an alternative that might have worked for you if you'd been able to see it. You already carry the condemnation of yourself inside of you, without recognizing that it's a false condemnation that comes from outside of you. It's actually not you who's confused. Rather, it's a society that sets arbitrary limits on who people can be that's confused. It's a society that can't see beyond the language that it uses to recognize that body parts don't indicate your gender. At a time and place where being yourself seemed so hopeless, you never gave up hope. And that's a lesson I need to take to heart. Because at a time and place where being myself seems to be so hopeful, I seem to be so close to the edge of hopelessness. I am grateful for your hope, your perseverance in expressing who you really are, even through a male interface to the rest of the world. To all the former selves, we have had a long journey to wholeness in who we are. We have found strength in the former selves, even as we have carried that unresolved pain, the fear, the sadness, the anxiety. You've all found the courage and the strength to persevere and leave traces of yourselves through the history of our life. Thank you. It pays off. While society is not altogether accepting, there is more hope and more acceptance. While there's still danger, there's also more security. Your suffering does have a reward in the end, a reward that we share. There are things that we can't recover. There are experiences that are gone forever, but that's not your fault. There's healing for the confusion, a release from the pain and anxiety. Thank you for surviving, and even growing in your own ways, like weeds among the rocks. I am what you wanted to be, whole in me.